Hi, I'm Malika Bilal, and you're in the stream. Today, is the Netherlands far right turning against its outspoken flag bearer, Geert Wilders? He's promised fewer Moroccans in the country and is getting quite the reaction. Filling in as digital producer is May Al Hassan. She's already looking out for your live feedback. What have you seen so far?
We've gotten a lot of community reaction. Of course, we've been tracking this story since it emerged last week. We even documented it on a WebEx. As you can see here on my screen, there's these selfies that were taken with Moroccans with their passports saying that Moroccans be like born here. One of the founders, Nasruddin, tweeted to us too his thoughts. He said, "It's not about Dutch Moroccans versus Geert Wilders. It's about Dutch minorities against institutional racism." Of course, this is a live conversation and we want to hear about what you think. Tweet us with hashtag AJStream.
And a number of our community members have already sent in their reactions using our video comment tool. Have a look.
Look, the fact is that Geert Wilders' anti-Moroccan bigotry is just par for the course. This is the same bigotry he's shown against Muslims for several decades that he's made his career out of.
I think there's a lot of xenophobia and racism in the Netherlands. People have kind of normalized racist slurs.
I don't accept the comments that the Wilders had to say a few days ago. We are not accepting this.
Geert Wilders, leader of the Netherlands far-right Freedom Party, or PVV, is facing the most serious backlash since he created the party in 2006. 6 members, including the head of its European Parliament delegation, resigned after Wilders ignited a storm of protests for comments he made during an election rally in The Hague last week.
Dus ik vraag aan jullie, willen jullie in deze stad en in Nederland meer of minder Marokkanen? Dan gaan we dat regelen.
Outraged Dutch Moroccans reacted by filing thousands of discrimination complaints with the police and by launching social media campaigns, including a Facebook page entitled, "I am filing a complaint against Wilders," and hashtag Born Here selfie campaign, where young men and women posted pictures of themselves holding their Dutch passports. So with 6 resignations at a time when the PVV was leading national polls, have Dutch Moroccans handed the far right their most serious crisis yet? To help us talk about this, we're joined by Mariam Al-Maslouhi from the Dutch Moroccan Foundation, Femke Koulingfrex, a diversity lecturer at the Hague University of Applied Sciences, Tawfiq Dibi, a Dutch Moroccan and former member of parliament, and Joost Niemoller, journalist and blogger. Welcome to all of you. Tawfiq, I want to start with you. After years of Geert Wilders making inflammatory remarks about Muslims and immigrants, what is it about last week's comments on Moroccans that sparked such an unprecedented protest?
Well, it's difficult to say because for me it was always very obvious that it's a racist party and that he was making racist remarks. Like he had the most crazy things he would say in parliament when I was a member of parliament. Like he wants people that are like colored to sign contracts. But I think the thing that changed was that the people in the cafe screaming less, like it reminded them. I think it reminded a lot of people about the time before World War II, before the genocide on Jewish people. Like Dutch people are traumatized by that period in history, so it reminded them of that times, and I think that they were like, we have to say something now because we accepted this too long, and maybe if we don't say something now, we'll be guilty as well for not speaking out.
Well, Mariam, I want your thoughts on that same question on why you think this is different. In 2011, a court ruled that some comments that Wilders had made in the past were on the border of being offensive, but they were legal. They were not illegal. So what is it in particular about these comments that has sparked this outrage?
Well, Wilders is very fond of attacking an ideology, Islam and Muslims, and I think what is the difference now, and I have to agree with DB though, that for a long time what he has said was discriminatory and racist. He's attacking an ethnic group. He's attacking Moroccans specifically and asking for to be less. So that means to be removed, and that a group is agreeing with that and they want less. And he's replying, "Well, we're going to take care of that." I think that scared a lot of people, thinking, "Oh, okay, Wilders has maybe, you know, he was popular during elections, as you said, that he's actually capable of it." And then at the end, you know, that the Dutch people didn't speak out about that.
So Femke, within our community, people are recognizing that there's a difference between bashing Muslims and bashing ethnic groups. And even Sir, sorry, I'm going to butcher your name, Sir Hingyo, says that he calls the reaction hypocritical and says, because this wanting less Moroccans, how is it any different from wanting less Muslims in the Netherlands? And he continues, therefore, don't think it's a step in a good direction for minorities. So, Femke, what do you think? Why is it that there's this reaction to an ethnic group, as Tawfiq had mentioned? It kind of stirs this deep-rooted fear of ethnic cleansing in the history of Europe. And what is the difference with now?
Well, first of all, I think there is not much difference between saying I want less Muslims or I want less Moroccans. It's just as bad, and it's both against the first article of our constitution. It's a clear act of racism and exclusion and discrimination. So both should be condemned. But I wouldn't say it is hypocritical that people react now. I'm just happy that people reacted now. Of course, it would have been better if people would have reacted earlier. But now people are reacting. We should support this act of solidarity and this call to really together show our frustration about this continuous hate speech and racism that Wilders is showing in the political arena.
Well, speaking of reactions, Femke, because you mentioned that people are reacting, Joost, one of our guests, has also reacted. Joost, I pulled up a blog post that you wrote after the comments. This is from March 22nd. Now, this, of course, is a translated version because it was written in Dutch. But there is one line that really stuck out to me, and you say that Wilders had a point. We need fewer Moroccans. If 60% of the Moroccan boys have been accused, then they're part of that problem. Explain to us your thinking behind this blog post.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's even 65%, and I guess it's even more because people from the third generation Moroccans were not accounted as, they were accounted as natives, well, they were actually Moroccans. So I think it will be more. But the problem is with this that everybody's speaking now about ethnic cleansing, for example, he's saying less Moroccans. Well, this is official government policy. We have a strict immigration policy. Last few years there were less Moroccans coming into Holland, and we have also a re-immigration program. So people from Morocco, but also from Turkey, get paid to go back to their country. So there's nothing new about what Wilders said. There's something wrong or not very smart about the way he said it. I mean, with the people shouting and all that, I think that was wrong. But the thing itself, and everybody seems to forget this, and everybody is in my mind in a very dangerous state of mind, and we had that before with Pim Fortuyn, and we know how that happened because he was killed.
Tawfiq, what do you have to say with what Joost just mentioned?
Well, Joost is, I don't know if you know that, Joost is one of the people that says that it's refreshing. I think Joost is very refreshing because he's openly racist. He says you can measure the skull of a person, and if it's a black person, then he's probably less smart than a white person. And what's so nice about Joost is that he says out loud what a lot of people in the Netherlands are thinking. What's wrong about Wilders is it's not normal government policy. He wanted to lessen the amount of Moroccans in the Netherlands that are right now there. So they were born there, and he wants less of them. It's not
no, he was
crazy of
explicitly speaking. He was explicitly speaking about Moroccans who had a criminal background, and that's
Well,
also
actually,
said by Ahmed Marcouch, someone from the Social Democrat Party.
He was just saying less Moroccans.
Exactly.
And
he didn't
I
say
mean,
less criminal.
No,
if he would
he
have
said it's
less
on the
Moroccans
market,
in the
and later on there's a television program with, later on there was a television program with a longer interview, and then he explained it is only about Moroccan with a criminal background. It was very clear. Everybody seems to forget it's because all these emotions now.
No, that's a tactic of him. He always does that. He tries to go to see how far he can go. If he wanted to say criminal Moroccans, Geert Wilders is a really smart man. He has a lot of experience in the media and with politics. If he wanted to say criminal Moroccans, that's what he used to say. He would say criminal Moroccans. He said Moroccans because he knew that would get a backlash. And you said we already have government
Mariam
policy,
wants to say something. Mariam, I want to get you in, and then Femke, and then we got to go to community. But go ahead, Mariam.
Well, I think, you know, we keep talking about the words he used, but imagine he used criminal Moroccans. How is that justifiable? I mean, those Moroccans are just Dutch Moroccans, they are citizens. Are you telling me that it would have been fine if he said criminal Moroccans and to expel them out of the country and take their passports, that you would have treated a Dutch person differently because he has another nationality? And I think that's also against the law. So how are you trying to justify trying to justify that?
I absolutely agree with Miriam on this point. I mean, the fact is that he is trying to exclude people and kick them out of the country. And he is relating that exclusion to a certain ethnic background. He's not speaking about a social phenomenon like criminality, which I'm sure we would all like to diminish. He is speaking about people that he wants to get rid of, and that is a very violent use of language, and it is also something that is against the Constitution. So, and it's not. I mean, it's not only. In his case,
no, it's not. It's not against the Constitution.
It's also in the case of what Mr. Niemöller is doing in his blogs, where he is saying extremely racist things like Tofik just mentioned.
Well, I'd like to give Joost a chance to reply to that, and then get to community. Joost, quickly, she's saying that you write racist things in your blog. I want to give you the space to reply.
Yeah, okay, well, this racist, everybody is called racist nowadays, so it doesn't mean very much. But the thing I mentioned was, well, everybody is called racist. I mean, you hear it on the internet, everywhere. You say something and you're called a racist because this or that, everything. When you say something about Islam, you're an Islamic racist, and it doesn't mean anything anymore.
Don't be a victim.
Yeah, what I said in this.
Okay, can we just bring in the community, because I want to backtrack a little bit to this question of criminality and citizenship, because we got a lot of community feedback on that. Ron tweets, "We would like to ask Moroccan people who can't behave to leave the country. What on earth is wrong with that?" We have a Facebook comment from Liz that says, "It may be a bit extreme that he targeted a certain group, but I don't blame him since crime stats don't lie. I'm also an immigrant in the Netherlands from Africa. I agree with Geert that they must deport immigrants who have a criminal record." Tofik, can you speak to that? I mean, do you see any problem with that? Why do you think people feel like somebody with a criminal record should be deported?
Well, the thing is, when we want to address racism in the Netherlands, you always have to have the disclaimer, yeah, of course there are problems, yes, there is a lot of criminality, and this point in time, we need to address racism. I know a lot of Dutch Moroccans are criminal, and you can find a lot of reasons why. They are responsible for that themselves, so I understand that they strike fear in a lot of other people. But don't forget, a lot of Muslims are victims of terrorist Muslims, and a lot of Dutch Moroccans are victimized by Dutch Moroccans who are criminal. It's not black and white. You have racism in every groups. I mean, go to Morocco, I see Moroccans discriminating sub-Saharan Africans. We don't want to make racism white versus black, but what we need to address right now is not the criminality of Dutch Moroccans, because we have addressed that the last 10 years. What we need to address now is a problem within the Dutch community, and that's called racism. And it's based on treating someone differently on the basis of the skin, on the color of their skin. What we see now is people that have the same nationality, that are born in the same tree, they are treated different by the justice system. That is what Geert Wilders and his supporters, and he has a lot of supporters, are proposing. That's why I wrote an open letter the last week, to not to Wilders himself, but to his voters.
Well, I want to take this to the streets of the Netherlands, actually, because there was a Facebook campaign that started. There was a page, just 1 second, there was a page that was started saying, I'm filing a complaint against Wilders. And they went out, the organizers behind this Facebook campaign, and they talked to people on the streets to get their comments, ordinary, average Dutch citizens, about their comments on Wilders' remarks. Have a listen to this.
U vindt het goed en u? Ik ben het er 100% mee eens. U bent het er ook mee eens, oké. Wilders aan de macht. Minder Marokkanen in Nederland. Heel goed.
Nee, geen commentaar. Die kunnen eigenlijk niet in deze samenleving waar iedereen met elkaar wil leven. Dus zodoende. Dat wordt het vroeger ook zo gegaan en ik weet wat de gevolgen daarvan zijn geweest.
Criminele Marokkanen, dan is denk ik iedereen met hem eens, maar dat is gewoon, dat is goed, criminelen in het algemeen, daarvoor noemen, ja.
Meer Marokkanen komen. Ik vind heel die discussie, meer of minder, vind ik al een beetje een rare opmerking. Mij maakt het hem niet uit, het zal continu gaan, weet ik veel wie dat doet. Ik ben juist wel...
In this last comment, someone said, I'm proud that we have so many cultures, and I'm proud of being multicultural. This is just someone on the street. But what does this say about the popularity of the PVV? Are they ceding some of their support because of these comments?
Well, I think...
No, go ahead, Femke.
Well, sorry. You know...
the question's for Femke, but
in my opinion...
But Jos, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Well, in my opinion, you have to look at a long way. In 2003, the first so-called national party came on in Europe. And when you see at the long run, you see more and more of these parties coming. Some of them are fascist, some of them are democratic. They have all different kind. But the bigger they get, the more democratic they get, and the more influential they get. So with the next European election, there will be 1/3 of the European Parliament will be of these Eurosceptic and anti-immigration parties. And that is only the beginning. So we're talking about a poll of today, what's happening with Geert Wilders now or tomorrow, but that's not the important issue. The important issue is that this process will go on and it will get stronger and stronger.
It only will get stronger if we don't address the issue. Like Wilders lost a lot of votes in the poll today.
That's exactly the problem.
Well, I think what we see is that the support that people give to the party of Geert Wilders comes from this certain moral panic that is created within the political sphere in general. So there are certain issues that we need to deal with in society. There is an economic crisis, of course. Yes, there's also criminality, and people feel comfortable when they find someone to blame for those issues. So they usually blame a very vulnerable minority. That's nothing new. That happened many times in history before. In the 50s, there were newspaper articles blaming predominantly male adolescents from impoverished neighborhoods that were causing nuisance on the streets with their motorbikes. Well, this same kind of newspaper articles could have been printed today. Only the kids that they're talking about in the news today, they're Dutch Moroccan and they're not native Dutch. So this is a recurrent problem of blaming a certain small part of a lower class group in the population for various problems that we need to deal with. And this is a very sentimental form of making politics and using xenophobic sentiments to enforce a very conservative political agenda.
Femke, to this point, the other reaction that we got from the community is that it is also not just Dutch Moroccans, that it's bigger than that, and it has been demonstrated by the people who have participated in campaigns like Born Here and I'm going to file a complaint with Geert Wilders. We got a video comment from one of the founders of that Facebook page. I'm going to play it for you now. His name is Amin.
My name is Emin El Morabit and I would like to react to Geert Wilders' statements of last week. First of all, this is not only a Dutch-Moroccan issue, but an issue for every single human being who felt offended by these statements. With our Facebook campaign, we tried to get the people going to the police stations to fill in police complaints against the discriminatory statements made by Geert Wilders. Furthermore, we also tried to raise awareness nationally and internationally for the way that Geert Wilders is conducting his politics. Thank you very much.
So Miriam, do you feel like this is a bigger issue than just the Dutch Moroccan community? Are you organizing outside of that?
Well, I think I must agree with Amin on a few points that it's bigger than a Moroccan issue. I mean, he could have. There are a lot of I think minorities in Holland. He could have picked anyone actually. So I must agree on also with the Black Pete discussion. I mean, Holland all of a sudden was too small, and I think also.
And of course, by mentioning the Black Pete discussion, that is something that the stream has done a show on. But yes, very briefly, explain for our international audience.
Well, it's as you can see now on the footage, it's the Black Pete. It's the little help of Santa Claus, the Dutch Santa Claus, and previously, you really couldn't openly talk about this discussion, as Joost previously mentioned, like, oh, all of a sudden everybody's racist. But I am, you almost felt guilty to call someone a racist. What this discussion has done lately is really openly talk about it. I mean, Geert Wilders doesn't really, in my opinion, doesn't really care about Holland, because the people who vote for him are misinformed, and he keeps them misinformed for his own good. So I think, yes, this is bigger than a Moroccan-Dutch issue, and it's a racism issue in Holland.
Joost, you want to respond to that? Joost?
Actually, there is...
Well, what we are forgetting here, it seems like the people coming on, everybody talks about the people things, the people are angry, this and that, but we forget that this whole thing is arranged by the government. The government is making this printed leaflet. We have officially, as in the whole Western world, the separation of powers. That means that politicians don't interfere with the judge. Here this is exactly happening. We see the Minister of Justice saying, well, this is wrong. We see the government giving leaflets to the people. They are printed, they only have to sign it. And I think this is a very dangerous game they're playing at the moment. This is getting into real trouble in the Netherlands when the politicians, when the government, when the media don't understand what this separation of power means anymore.
Well, Joost, actually, I still want to go back because I don't know if you answered the question directly. Wilders, one of our people on Twitter, Natalia, was saying that Wilders targets all immigrants. Polish people were his previous targets, now it's Moroccans. This is the essence of his party. Would you agree? What would your response be? Joost?
Well, it's not a question about targeting. It's not about targeting. It's a question about we in the Dutch society have a lot of problems for the last 40 years with immigrations. There has been a lot of problems, and now what Wilders actually is saying, I want to close or I want to control the borders so we can control immigration. Now this isn't possible anymore because we have the EU, that's another big problem. And now the only thing is left is frustration about this, and the frustration is very big under a lot of Dutch people, and this has been for 40 years. And everybody, every time somebody stands up and says something about it, he's called a racist and so on.
You sparked something that everyone wants to respond to. Yeah. Unfortunately, they're going to have to respond in the post show because that's all the time we have in the main show. Of course, you can stay on this discussion on our website, stream.aljazeera.com. I pulled up our web exclusive Dutch Moroccans Be Like Born Here. Now, on the next show, stalking in Japan has reached record highs. We look at the dangers of obsession and what's being done to protect victims. Until then, we'll see you for our very heated post show online. Welcome back to the Stream's online post show. We've been talking about reactions in the Netherlands to anti-Moroccan comments made by outspoken far-right politician Geert Wilders. Now, before we entered our post show, Joost Niemulder made some comments that everyone wanted to respond to in the last 30 seconds of our program. So I want to start with Tawfiq. Tawfiq, go ahead.
Yeah, well, two things. You have the racist card, and true, sometimes it's pulled wrongly, but you also have the card that a lot of racists are pulling, and that's we can't say anything. If we say anything, they're going to kill us. And that card is a lot of time wrongly used by people like Joost. The second thing is, Joost said we had a lot of problems with immigrants the last 40 years. That's true, but we also had a lot of benefits. Who is going to change Joost's diaper when he's going into the elderly house, or my diaper? Those will be the children of immigrants. Who are going to teach his grandchildren and my grandchildren? Who are going to keep the streets clean? Who are going to lead our country? Those will be the children of immigrants. So it's so easy to always say that we only have problems with immigrants.
I really do.
They pay a lot of taxes.
Mariam, go ahead.
I agree with Tawfiq on a big deal, but it's too easy to blame everything that happens in Holland or in Europe the last 40 or 60 years on the fact that there are immigrants. Of course, it's a difficult situation, you know, when people come from a different country to, you know, with other cultures. But to blame it solely on that on immigrants, I think that's a bit drastic. And I must agree, yes, of course, we are part of this society. I mean, even when we were talking about, you know, that Geert Wilders is keeping his voters misinformed, it's also about how he addresses the people. I mean, to talk about Moroccans, we're Dutch citizens, and we've been a part of the society for a very long time. So I think you have to give a little credit for that also.
Well, Tawfiq, you know, I think this raises a question of where Moroccans go from here. We've obviously seen perhaps what's an unprecedented amount of gathering to get a collective effort, and results of that were successful for that community. But I pulled up your blog here, and it's in Dutch, so I'm just referencing it. This is Tawfiq's DB's blog, and you have a part in there that I wanted to show and to share with our international audience. You have a part in there where you speak about your niece and your nephew, and you say you have concerns for them. Can you explain, talk us through that?
Yeah, well, I have a few brothers and one sister that have children. Some of them are Dutch Moroccan, some of them, like, they're mixed. So they have a heritage, the Dutch heritage and the Moroccan heritage. And I was thinking, like, what happens when they hear PVVers screaming like less Moroccans? Like, I'm adult, I'm intelligent, I have studied, so I can put things in perspective. Children will think, oh my God, something is wrong with me, and will be ashamed of themselves. And we have seen, after what Wilders did, we have seen multiple interviews with Dutch Moroccan children in the Netherlands that said that they were bullied in school. So to people like Joost and Geert Wilders, it's fine that you want your whole racist thing and your anti-Europe, anti-immigrant thing, and everything that comes from outside of Holland is wrong. But think of the children. Those children will be the children that will build up the rest of this country. Like, the future of the Netherlands is nothing without these children. So have a little respect when you scream racist.
That's why Wilders' policies is very focused not on Holland, or, you know, to better Holland or whatever. He's actually, it's his own interest. I mean, how is a child of 10 going to understand that this is strategic? He's going to feel attacked or whatever. At our organization, we received the last couple of weeks hate mails, letters, phone calls. We can all, you know, just like Tawfiq said, we're adults. We're, you know, almost used to it. But how is a child of 10 going to react? And that's why we all have to take responsibility and you know, and call something that is racist racist.
How is a child? I'm rephrasing your question, but how is a child going to deal with that? And another line from Tawfiq, and think of the children, something that we hear often. But Joost, what's your response to that? Because Tawfiq did mention you in his comment in grouping you with Wilders and saying, think of our children. How do you respond?
Well, my response is I am always interested in debate, and always interested in a debate with real facts. But the thing is that the Dutch politicians don't want to talk about the real facts. That, for example, the PVV asked a couple of years ago, can we do a research about how much the immigration will cost us? Things are normally done in a country like Great Britain and in the US, but here it was forbidden. So all is left now, there are emotions, and this is, as I said, a very emotional situation. So people get angry, people get frustrated, people going to shout, and then you get this situation. It would be much better when the politicians were more responsible and would talk about the real effect about immigration and about how much immigration actually do we want. I mean, there are 7 billion people living in the world. How many of these people do we want in Holland? I mean, that's a normal question.
When you wish to question the effects of immigration and you would only want to phrase that question in terms of what did it cost us, that is a very tendentious question, because
because it
a lot of the immigration. So I'm always wondering how this discussion got into this sort of state of amnesia, because those grandfathers and fathers of the young kids that we see on the streets and the 12-year-olds that Tawfiq is talking about, they were actually explicitly invited to come to the Netherlands to do the hard labor that the native Dutch people were no longer willing to do in the factories. So they were
that's totally wrong. They were not invited by the Dutch, they were invited by the big companies.
It looks like Jos and Femke can argue that point, but I want to get to our community because they have a lot of points they'd like to bring up. May.
They have definitely jumped in this question of what is the fix now? Where can they go? YHK says this is the reflection of an integration policy failure. Need to work on tolerance and solidarity politics. Then Martinj says, I think we can handle this if we solve the problem of unemployment of this specific young group so they integrate more. Miriam, is this a question of integration?
No, I don't think it's anymore. We've passed that. Maybe integration, when we talked about the immigrants who just, in the 70s, 80s just came and had to adapt and really get used to living in a country like the Netherlands. But we're talking now about Moroccans who were born and raised here, and like Tawfiq said, who are third generation maybe. So I don't think it's a question of integration anymore. I mean, we left that in the 80s and in the 70s. We are part of the Dutch society now. We were born and raised here, and
it's hybrid
we're
now.
Part of. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, the young people that I do research with in the university in The Hague, they're in very mixed, culturally mixed and ethnically mixed classrooms, and they don't see any ethnic differences. So when they're asked questions about what kind of cultural differences do you see within your everyday life experiences, they're a bit surprised to hear such a question, because they think we're all living in the Netherlands, so we're basically all in the same kind of experience. So for them it's not such an issue. So I feel that this sort of focus on ethnic differences and the bad part of ethnic differences, it sounds to me a bit like an issue of an older generation that is not catching up with what is happening nowadays.
I think that's an interesting part in whether or not this is a generational discrepancy. Tawfiq, I hear you piping up there, and I'd like to give you the last word in our discussion, especially because I heard you say hybrid. We're hybrids.
Yeah, thank you, Malika. That's what I want. I think the next step in this whole discussion, not only for the Netherlands, but for every country that's multicultural, the US as well, it's accepting hybrid citizens. So people that have a little of everything. Like you have young ones right now, the younger generation that is Muslim or Christian or atheist, but is half Suriname, half Turkish, half a quarter of Japanese. So you have young ones that are mixed throughout, so they don't belong to one group. And I think the whole group think, like placing people in groups, that's one of the big problems in this whole debate about racism. So I'm promoting like hybrid citizens in the multicultural, like accepting that fact that you don't have to choose between parts of your identity. You can be everything you want to be, and you should not be judged on that. You should only be judged on your behavior.
Tawfiq, we'll see if that acceptance catches on. I want to give last word to our community, May.
This is from Andrea on Twitter. She says, Wilders cannot be taken seriously. The protests against him are promising and will hopefully open a new unifying dialogue.
That's all the time we have for our discussion today. I want to thank our guests for joining us. Mariam El-Masrouhi from the Dutch Moroccan Foundation, Femke Helling-Frex, a diversity lecturer at the Hague University of Applied Sciences, Tawfiq Dibi, a Dutch Moroccan and former Member of Parliament, and Jos Niemoller, journalist and blogger. On the next show, stalking in Japan has reached record highs. We look at the dangers of obsession and what's being done to protect victims. And until then, we'll see you online. Thanks for watching.